Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Pete Renzulli, Class B member, T3 Trading Group. It is Tuesday afternoon, Election Day, November 6th, 2012. Welcome to the daily recap. Interesting day again today, and I guess we'll start out with the spiders as we should. We are continuing to have the decrease in volume, waiting for the election to be over. We had if we could just zoom to the intraday charts here a little bit, we actually opened up above the previous day's high and based near the highs for, I want to say, close to an hour, if not more. I mean, we essentially traded within the opening range, that opening 15-minute window, for most of the morning until we ended up getting this one really solid push higher on good volume. And we got a little bit of follow through there, pulled back a little bit, but I think it's safe to say right now that the market really does not have an opinion right now. You're just seeing it on the tape, and you can see on the daily chart here that the spiders, again, as of this recording and the market just closed, we barely got to 100 million shares. Now, a busy day is where we do 150, 175, and we did not even do 100 again today. So 100 million shares seems to be the benchmark that we can't clear our way through. Why do I keep bringing that up? I keep bringing that up because I'm discussing conviction with real money, and a lot of algorithms kick in, and we get a lot of trades back and forth when there's not direction. When there's real new buying or new selling, we will see an increase in conviction showed through transactions, and we are just not getting that right now. But that being said, that doesn't mean that there's not opportunities. But what I want to do is I want to finish up the analysis or my perspective of the market by saying right now there is no edge, period. Now this here is the 50 EMA on the daily chart, and you can see that it's pretty much been sideways since we went into this little trading range since the week of the 22nd last month. So if you're an intermediate term trader where you're not necessarily a day trader, not necessarily a longer term position trader, this right now, the 50 EMA is telling you that the market is neutral. So that should be the first thing that's going into your trade expectation. What's going on with the market and how does that affect my trade? Now, I keep saying this over and over and over again because the number one question I get when I do the private mentoring in the active trader room is, how do I know how long to hold on? How do I know when there's more available in the trade for me to stick with the trade as opposed to booking the profit? Intraday or day-to-day, whether it's moving averages, trading above yesterday's high, below yesterday's low, whatever it happens to be, you need some criteria that says, I expect follow-through. Now, here's the key. Far too many traders make that the question they ask after they're in a trade, when the fact that you're in a trade already should have dictated that you answered that before you put it on. So you say, I have an edge, how much room is there to go, how big of an argument can I build for the idea, and that will tell you how to manage the position before you get in it. So right now the market is not on your side. However, that doesn't mean that we can't take advantage of some individual stocks that have some pretty good to decent order flow in them right now, where they're both in uptrends and the moving averages are in the right order, and we are getting near or clearing some significant resistance levels. So we talked about Citigroup quite a bit. You hear me talking about it pretty much every day, and with good reason. Look at this chart. Intraday, we never looked back after we opened up right around 37.45 and just slow grind higher all day. But the interesting one, not hard to find a market leader right now. Take a look at this Goldman Sachs. You can see the level here on the chart. We've been discussing this 126.25 level, for lack of a better way of putting it, and this is 1, 2, 3 times. Okay, it's not a double top anymore from these 2 days. Now it's a triple top. More often than not, it's knocked 3 times and you push through. But again, we have the election. The point that I'm making here is also, as a trader, you must start to distinguish what stocks are the big cap stocks that are leading the market higher or lower. And right now, in my opinion, it is clearly the banks, clearly Goldman Sachs, clearly Citigroup. Okay, JP Morgan did not have as strong a day today. It did close higher, but not percentage-wise higher. Citigroup was the best of the bunch. Morgan Stanley also opening near its low and closing to the high as well. But again, you got to set up the expectation. If you're looking at Citi, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, it looks like Goldman is the one that has gotten to the resistance level and or peeked its head through. So that would be the one that you should be leaning on if we start to stay through that level. Now, that being said, we're going to delve our way into everybody's granddaddy of a stock, Apple. And one thing that was very interesting, again, I'll go to the 15-minute chart, and I'm going to put in something that everybody knows that I watch like a hawk every day, which is the opening price. That's where it opened today. We did not trade above the opening price after the first 15-minute window of the day. So essentially what that means is, coming off of the inside day that we talked about this morning, held the 200 EMA, we were looking to see if that meant this downside move has exhausted itself, where we can get an open above the previous day's high and start to take out maybe some of these moving averages to the upside. Zoom back to the intraday. This is what you can do on your intraday, daily, weekly, monthly charts. It doesn't matter what it is. It gives you a reference point. It allows you to what's called read the tape. Tape reading is stock moving closer to or further away from a significant reference point? Now, when you're in a position, you're the best tape reader on the planet. How come? Because you have a position and you know better than anybody in the world if that stock is strong or weak. If you're not in a position, you need some sort of structure to identify, how do I know if the stock is strong or weak relative to some other price if I'm not in it? So what I use is the opening price, which you can see here clearly, or the previous day's high and the previous day's low. So if I was to set some levels here, again, just throwing some ideas out there for you to learn how to read the tape. Apple, other than that first 15-minute where it immediately came back into the day, what I'm setting up right now at this point in the day is I'm saying, here's the previous day's high, here's the opening range. I have two really, really solid levels to lean on to tell me if this stock, reading the tape based on these reference points, previous day's low, previous day's high, today's opening price, is strong or weak. We immediately pulled back. Yesterday's high would have been the first level of support I was looking for. We danced around it a little bit, did not hold, pushed down, and lo and behold, we push back up, and that same level comes in as resistance. Now you're reading the tape, you're getting into that level, and you can see we roll over. Now, why is this so important? This is obviously the stock that everybody has on their watch list. Everybody's an exaggeration, but everybody in full-time active trading community that I speak to is watching this stock one way or another. Now, here's how you take advantage of this, even if you're not trading Apple or Goldman Sachs. You still need what is called indicator stocks that normally will move prior to the indices moving. I want you to write that down. That's very, very important. It is old school trading. It goes back hundreds of years, all the way back to Jesse Livermore. All right, back to the early 1900s. Market leaders move first before the market indices move. Apple's still not going. So we have the same battle that we've had the last, I want to say, 3 weeks. Financial strong, tech's weak. Which one is going to win the battle? Right now, that's why we're getting this back and forth, where it's just not clear. So we're getting individual stocks. Although despite the doubt, we did open higher, push higher, there's still this weight of all these bigger stocks. Now, the thought process should be, well, if tech's coming in this hard and the market's still going up, the market's in unbelievable shape. And I don't disagree with that at all. We talked about home builders this morning. Home Depot is still near new highs. Actually, let me get into Home Depot a little bit. You can see that's still up near the highs. We talked about Pulte Homes this morning. Okay, a couple of them breaking out to new highs. The interesting thing, though, now is energy is starting to hang in there, for lack of a better way of saying it. CVX pulled back a couple of days after hitting that 200. Now, the reason I'm pointing this out is it got down to a significant level and did not pierce it, and now we're getting a couple of days back to the upside. So what does this all mean for you as far as setting up a trade for tomorrow? There's two different types of ideas that you must be looking at right. Oh, I'm sorry. One that I wanted to make sure I mentioned as well was Starbucks, which peaked its head above the 52 today. This is very, very interesting. The earnings gap and hold now for a couple of days. I know a few people that wanted to try and short into the 52 just because of how far it moved already and the fact that the resistance level was pretty obvious. Conversations I've had again in the private room today is, if a stock is at resistance and you want to sell short a stock, a strong stock at resistance is not the right stock to short. You want to short a stock that has selling order flow with room to go to the downside. What's going to end up happening is, if you short a strong stock into resistance, you might not make that much money, you might not lose that much money, but it's not the best idea. Ask yourself prior to the trade, is this selling order flow with room to go if you want to sell short? In this case, it's not. We've held the gap higher now for 3 days. This stock is strong. You can't ignore this 52 level. Okay, now moving along a little bit to going to go to agricultural stocks. Okay, now as much as we've noticed relative strength, we have to notice some relative weakness. Potash still hanging out near the lows. Mosaic bounced a little bit. And Monsanto bounced the most. So if this sector starts to roll over, obviously potash is the first one you would look to sell short. If the stock remains bid and hangs out in this area, Monsanto has had the best push off the lows if you like the sector to push higher. It also has room to go. You got 88.95 where it closed to 92. So you got a clear $3 level looking for some profits on the long side in the ag stocks. All right, so moving right along, we had a couple of other stocks that were really interesting today. UNH actually bounced back pretty cleanly today, again after taking out the 50 EMA yesterday, which you can see has been the baseline for the better part of 7 weeks now, and we got back above that level. 57 probably going to be a little resistance, so it depends on where it opens tomorrow, but pretty decent volume, pretty good push to the upside, closed near the highs. Pretty interesting there, and right along those lines. Prudential, same thing, 58, looks very, very similar there. TJ Maxx, a little bit on the weak side, getting over to the difference in some of these retailers. Inside day, TJ Maxx, I'm actually carrying a little bit of this short overnight based on the relative weakness to the market. And again, when you're doing your game planning, you want to do a quick eyeball of which stocks to possibly be looking at the next day for relative strength or relative weakness. Very simple. If the market's strong, look for stocks that close below the open. If the market's weak, look for stocks that closed above the open for plays in the opposite direction if the market trades in that direction. You always want to have longs and shorts for the next day. I know a lot of people only pick one side or the other. That's fine. I'm just giving you some ideas on how to game plan. So I'm carrying a little bit of TJ Maxx short overnight today, and then we had Macy's breaking out very nicely, so you can get something else you can get a feel for here right now is the fact that the same stocks are not necessarily doing the same thing. So then you got to really drill down and go stock specific. This Macy's breakout looks pretty nice, especially when you figure end of August it got up to this level. Back to school in this window, we pushed up, and now we're right back up to the level again. Knocked 3 times, again, usually goes through. We'll see what happens up there. All right, so other than that, look, the majority of the stocks on my list today were positive. If we can just wrap up here with OIH and USO. All right, both of them bounced for a couple of days. However, you can see very clearly here on the charts that USO is filling the gap down. So nothing to get that excited about. Again, a couple of moves to the upside in a downtrend is probably an area you're looking for a sell short. It's not necessarily here. Again, I will tell you what I told somebody in the room today. If you want to be long, you want to be long strong stocks. This is not a strong stock. At this particular moment, you should be looking for stocks that have buying order flow, which again we talked about before, and this is something that Rob Smith does very, very well. Go on the weekly charts and or the monthly charts and see if there's buying or selling in those stocks this week and or this month. When you combine that with what you might use in normal support or resistance levels as well as using moving averages, you get a really, really crystal clear idea of whether or not there's buying or selling in that stock right now. Now, the key after that is doing what you see. Sometimes we get in our own head and we can't get out of our own way and we have these opinions. You don't want to have an opinion. You want to have facts based on right now there's price action in a particular stock. And I'm actually going to take this a step further. For those of you guys that don't know Rob Smith or Smith in the Black room, I've been trading for a long time, and his analysis and his way of looking at things, in my opinion, is fascinating. And I believe everybody can use understanding what his strategy is, because it will help you regardless of whether you're a momentum trader, an active trader, swing trader. And I'm just going to steal his thunder just for 1 minute, and you guys can take this a little bit into your own trading. And you know what? I'm actually going to do it without moving averages. I'm going to pull this chart in here, and I'm going to leave you with something that I think Rob would be pretty happy that I'm introducing to you. Essentially here, this is a 1 hour chart of USO, and essentially what Rob, and I'm going to give you his 6 hour course in 5 minutes here. There's obviously a lot more detail, but I just want to walk you through one thing. Essentially what Rob does is he combines multiple time frames and then boils it all down to, as if he has continuity on the higher ones, then he drops down to every single hour and looks to see if there's buying this hour, this hour, this hour, this hour. And there's a lot more to it. I'm just touching on it, and Rob could do a much better job explaining. If you want to get into a 2-day trial, just send an email to info@t3live.com. But the point that I'm trying to make here is this. Many traders have opinions of the day. Rob boils it down even further to say I have an opinion of the day, but is my hour that's unfolding right now confirming my longer term opinion of the day? So if you want to trial, Rob will walk you through it. If not, I just gave you a pretty good idea of what goes on. Election tonight. If you didn't vote already, get out there and vote. I look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow. Have a great night. We've got some stocks. Macy's one of them. Big resistance levels. Goldman Sachs as well. Make sure those are in your list tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody.
I'm Sean Hendelman of T3 Live, where we train, coach, and mentor traders in order to help you put your money to work with confidence. The T3 Live approach is a blueprint for you to recognize, adapt, and ultimately take advantage of different market conditions. To begin your training with T3 Live, we would like to offer you the opportunity to enroll in our free 30-day online home study course. Fill in your name and email address, and I'll see you on the other side.